Again, regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen. If you first order of business, if you're joining the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Additions. Okay, move to approve the agenda as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I move to approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes for February 11th, 2025. We've had some reviews. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Audience or citizen, anything that's not on the agenda tonight? Anybody in there? Nope. Good, thank you. Old business. Okay, I made a motion 2 weeks ago to be able to do some work on the senior center furnace with some, with the option, if some changes came up, we could amend that. So tonight, I move to amend the previous motion on February 4th, 2025, to approve the recommendation of Peter Dunick, Facilities Manager, repairs on the furnace and upgrading the heating and cooling system with the new HVAC split system, 2 heating and cooling heads. So that was approved on, no, what we're doing. What's that? Originally approved. Yeah, on February 4th. So we're gonna amend it to, if you're in agreement. Peter has found that they can do repairs on the boiler over there at a lower cost to be able to use it as it's intended, the heating furnace. But also, it's about $3,000 for the
Shorten the section
repair.
and put it back into service, yep,
Right,
or less.
which was gonna be $8,000. However, to repair a furnace, whether it's 3,000 or 8,000, you're gambling on how long it will stay in service.
Right.
So Peter, we asked him to look at a split system, which is like this, heating and cooling. And a new furnace would be around $25,000.
29,000 is my lowest quote at this point in time.
Okay, 29,000 for a new furnace. But we can do a repair on the existing furnace for about $3,000. And then we have, we believe that we can put in an HVAC split system in heating and cooling for about $15,000. So you'll have a new system of HVAC heating and cooling for $15,000 with a secondary and hopefully a reliable furnace for an additional $3,000. So total is probably $18,000. Or we can roll the dice and repair it for $3,000 and hope it works for a number of years. And then we'll have to replace it for the cost of over $25,000. Thoughts?
How's our AC over there?
The AC over there is, in my opinion, antiquated. It's the big air cooler up in the attic, which is old. It's from 1996. I see this as a first step to eliminating the original air conditioning system and installing multiple split units, which I think would be easier on maintenance, lower cost, much more modern, more efficient than what you have up there. There's obviously a cost involved in that, but I would recommend proceeding like this as step one. Maintaining what you have until it finally dies.
With 15,000 for the mini splits, is that, and
What does it cover?
Add into it, you know what I mean?
Yes, you can add, you can increase the, size of the condenser if you want to, but you generally how the mini splits work is how you have it here at town hall. You'll put a unit size for this area here, and then on the other side, when you need another one, you'll put another condenser in a unit size for the area you need. But you want to pretty much put a head into every room,
Mhm.
not literally, but much like that. So this calls for two heads in the, I call it the ballroom, big ballroom. The furnace as auxiliary heating in this weather, when it's 15 degrees out.
Right,
So how low, how low can the temperature go for the mini splits to be effective for heating?
So that is an excellent question. Some of them, I don't have the exact line, but some of them go into the high 20s. None of them are great when it's 15 degrees out. Usually in the high mid 30s, they're great. And they can heat the room. And then when you get down into this stuff, you need to add supplemental heating such as oil fired furnace.
My splits operate until it's -3 up.
Hmm.
Okay, I will tell you that it is a supplement, it is a mediocre heating system. With the boiler or the furnace would be a good add 3 to 5 degrees, which would make it nice. The splits are better air conditioners than they are heaters. That's all I use for air conditioning in the summertime. But in the wintertime, I run the splits, but I also turn on my furnace to give it a couple more degrees. Mrs. Everett likes it warm. So, other questions? We have this money where?
I believe this is from your HVAC fund. That's what my intention would be to request it from.
Mark, yeah, that's good.
think so, double check, but
Yeah, I know we have at least 15 in there. I think we have more than 18.
Now, how old is the furnace again? I know-
1996 or.
Furnace.
so
or-
those are original.
Original, yes, it's original.
Original.
It might have been manufactured a few years earlier, but I'm calling it the 1996.
So both the AC and the furnace were installed
Yes,
in
yep,
1996.
the AC system, the building was built around it, had to be craned into your building, it's a one-piece unit. Take it out, I'd recommend we abandon it in place if possible, take it out, you'll have to either open a wall or come up and cut it into pieces and lower it down with a hoist, when you want to remove it.
Good engineering.
Look, the mini split isn't really that great of a heater, why is the rush to do that now and versus just repairing the furnace and install the mini split down the road if it makes sense from an air conditioning perspective?
If I may, just because of the age of your furnace, you're going on, how many years is it now? Yeah, it's end of life, your furnace is
30.
close, yeah, it's close to end of life. I mean, you can limp it along, absolutely, but in my opinion, I like cars. If you have a 1988 Buick down there, and you're gonna just keep throwing money at this old Buick, keep it running on the road.
It also provides hot water.
No, there's hot water,
Hot water.
separate.
Oh, okay.
How old is that?
So
So
we're looking to
in-
save $10,000, $11,000 versus getting a new furnace.
Yeah. I
We don't
guess-
need AC, doesn't sound like that's your need, it's really heat and.
So we can repair it for 3,000 in a month if we work it to the extent of what we're working it as the major and only heating source in there. Here it is, the middle of February. If you don't know, it'll probably use the heating system till May. If we get through that, that's fine, but doing the HVAC, if we decide to put it in now, that will be the main heating source. And the furnace will be a supplemental, not having to work as hard. That's all. Believe me, I have a furnace that's probably 20 years old, second one I put in the house, and I use that just to. I actually just this year got a hot water heater, cause I had a continuous hot water heater through the furnace, and I didn't wanna put the strain on it anymore. So,
Yeah, I guess I'm wondering, should we get a new furnace as opposed to, I mean, I get what you're saying too.
so a
It
new
was-
furnace at 25 to 30. Higher. 25, let's say 25 to 30, or do another heating system a good one, I'm not gonna lie, to you, it's not great, it's a good one.
Right.
But if you can turn on the furnace for a couple of degrees more, it's fine.
There's probably no difference with keeping the pipes from freezing. With the-
No, I don't think there's any exposed pipes there at all from what I've seen, everything looks good.
Do we have solar panels at the senior center?
No,
Mm,
I made a call to our solar, provider. And I tell you, I was a little disappointed because they stated to me there aren't any programs now that really make small jobs worthwhile. And I thought to myself, my house was a small job and I save $140 a month on rates from 4 years ago. So in Eversource, that's probably raised them a few times since then, so I'm probably saving a lot more than that. I'm not, it's nice to get the incentives and grants and stuff, but the true objective of solar is to have that source to provide energy, not just to save you or, you know, put it in for free or something. You still have to pay for your energy. I lease my system. That's why I know what I have saved every month. A lot of places it was buy it outright or lease it for 20 years. So. We would have to look into that. But I asked them about expanding the solar for the school because of the HVAC system going in there. I'd like to provide more solar for that energy. There's also the library, the panels that are not an eyesore now, you can barely see them. The library uses a lot of energy, we could recoup some there, some costs and stuff. But they said the little jobs aren't really, there's not a lot of grants and stuff for that, and that's secondary to what I'm looking for. You see.
Well, I mean, mini
Eversource
splits
does.
make tremendous sense, if you have solar to help boost it.
So we actually we got a call today when Mark and I were in a meeting, and it was somebody about solar, and we may just look around a little bit for a secondary. But I don't know, I don't know if solar will be put on the senior center. It doesn't face truly south. It's more of a.
Well, I'm thinking
east-west.
more of an array, can you do an array that's also a carport like they have in Coventry?
Yeah, I asked about that initially, and that's
Well, it's out
the
of their
expense of
boxes,
that.
they don't like it because it's out of their boxes. That's something
I don't know that.
ready to explode.
So I guess my thought, because a repair sounds great, if that's all we would do, we'd save a lot of money, but it's a repair that eventually we're gonna need to replace the furnace or do something different down the road, so I know it's a savings, I guess.
But we're also gonna have to replace the HVAC.
Right. Right.
So it's not just the furnace you're looking at end of life. it's
So I
also-
wanna be clear what Peter said. One condenser can handle up to 3 heads. Okay? For my house, I have 2 condensers. 3 heads, different parts of the house, and then I have another condenser on the backside, 3 different rooms in the house. So 14 grand to 16,000, I pay, you pay $15,000 for one of those systems. The other one, now, will we have to expand to different areas of the senior center? I don't know. What do they have for air conditioning there?
So,
Is it all off one system?
yeah, it's all your same system. You have heating, another furnace in the other corner, gas furnace. I don't know if that was put in at the same time or not. It's been revamped a bit. And that heats the kitchen area and the senior social services area of the building. So it's chopped up. You also have another small one served by the same furnace that heats the men's and women's room over there. So as these things drop, you'll have the choice of opening your roof and taking them out or abandoning them in place and replacing with light or putting a split unit in there.
Alright, so now I have a question. The furnace that is currently there. What size furnace would we need to have one heating system with 4 or 5 zones on it instead of 3 units, one in the roof, one in this closet, and one over here. What is the cost of that versus putting in a couple of condenser units at 15,000 apiece? That's 30 for 2.
So if you, I can research that, because I would need to speak with some engineers, get the square footage of the building. And I can get you a pretty accurate answer, but I
Okay.
couldn't do that off the top of my head right now.
But we need to fix the furnace now.
You do, your furnace is actively leaking. Couple of gallons of water on the floor from the gaskets that are letting go or crack in a, section. It could stop tonight, it could last another year.
Okay, so
That's
I'm
why
gonna
I'm
make a
bringing it to your
motion
attention.
that we do the $3,000 to fix the furnace, okay? That will fix the water leaking anyway, and allow the furnace to work to keep heat pumping in there. We keep our fingers crossed until we get enough information to make an educated, fully factual decision on what we should do over in the senior center for heating and or air conditioning within the next couple of months.
Sure, whatever you'd like.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Anybody? Okay,
It's fine.
I make a motion that we provide, or where are we getting that money? Oh, HVAC, that we authorize repairs of $3,000 plus or minus for the furnace system in the senior center. All those in favor?
Aye.
So I appreciate the work you've done, but I think we need to look at all the systems that are up there, the age of them, and kind of put it all into an educated decision. Thank
Are we
you.
gonna get our existing HVAC committee involved in this?
Oh, wait, please no.
They got their hands full. They're skilled.
It'll work, it'll be $3 million. Okay. I don't have to do anything else here. Okay, new business. I mean, I guess, all right, yeah, Jeff.
Yes.
Our deputy fire chief, Jeff Lewis, is here. He came to us with a scenario that we want to take care of those people who take care of us in town. And there's kind of a glitch in their ability to earn the tax abatement that we offer the fire department and the ambulance corps. And that involves an injury or having to take some time off, and it needs to be fixed, so the floor is yours.
Thanks. So currently, right now, the way the statute's put in is there's 3 options for us. The first one is fully active member that meets the requirements of 50 calls, 10 drills, 5 meetings. That's option 1. The second one is belong to our board of directors. And the third one is retire, which is great. But as myself, getting older, 51, but if I break my leg, say, January 1st, and I'm out for a year, I don't get tax abatement. But
Even though you've been on the force for how long?
I've been on the force for 31 years.
Okay, so you would
So,
not get the
I would
tax-
not, I would lose out on that requirement. So the way this statute's written is you have to do 25 years of active service. That means every one of those years of your service, you've done the 50, 10, 5. And currently, that are on the active roll right now, we have 7 members that make that requirement. We have, as of last meeting, when Chief Haddad spoke, we have 35 members on the roster that could have that potential to get it. But only 7 of us have met that 25 plus years of active service. 25 years is the minimum. So you wouldn't give somebody that broke their leg and they're only been on the force for 2 years because they haven't met the 25 years. So for me, if I broke my leg, I would have to retire. Then once my leg and I'm all healthy again, then reapply and come back out of retirement to basically get my tax abatement, which doesn't make sense at all. And it was probably just an overlook, and it's really not a big deal. It hasn't come up yet, but we were looking at it. We're trying to, for those 7 members that we have, and we hope to maybe get an 8th or 9th in the next few years, just give them that extra bonus that you don't have to go retire, you don't have to walk away from this. just so you can keep your $2,000 tax abatement, which we are totally appreciative of the town of Columbia for what you do for us. That is an added bonus that helps get members in the door. We're just looking to round it out a little bit better. I think that's probably a good term, Mark. And I thank Jen and Mark for the conversations we've had with that. So I know what we wrote up. The lawyer wants to clean it up a little bit, but in a nutshell, that's basically what it is.
So basically, it protects those who may get hurt,
Yes,
who don't want to lose their continuation in service due to an illness and lose their tax abatement, which they certainly deserve after 25 years of service. And the only way to keep that is to retire and then come back, or you find out retirement's not so bad and you don't come back. It's, retirement stinks. I'm just telling you.
thank you for wrapping it up. That's a perfect way to put it.
All right,
Thank you.
so after listening to the fire department and, Jeff there, we're trying to get with the town council and look over how we can achieve that goal and how we can make the language fit to the charter. So, just so you know, when we get that language back, okay, before we say we're gonna get that language, everybody understand the scenario? Does anybody have a problem? Anybody have a discussion?
Just to clarify, so it's injured while in performance of fire,
Yes.
or, okay.
Oh, wait, no,
It could be injured.
Yeah,
no, you could be walking out his yard. and-
Correct.
and
That is correct.
yeah, pull a hamstring or something. It's not, it does not have to be on the job
That's
fire call related.
Right,
No,
you don't
I
have
do
to.
that.
It would take me out of being able to, anything that takes me out of being able to go on a call. If you were talking about on the job, that's totally a different, that's in a totally different avenue.
And this is also for retired people who've been at firemen for 25 years.
Yeah, we currently have
So you currently,
four
They
people
get-
on
they get
retirement.
that.
I get
They
that.
get that, yeah.
Okay, so
They'll
this
get hurt,
is just
that's it.
for people who are injured and can't do.
Well, yeah, just something that keeps us from going, but we have that 25 years of active service.
Right.
And we hope to get better and get back on the line again and keep doing what we love to do, but not miss that year of what would have been given to us if we didn't get injured, health. So,
We would have to bring this to a town meeting. Public
You'd have to
hearing.
have a public hearing and then, bring it back to the board of selectmen for approval.
Okay, well, we'll keep you posted.
no problem, no rush.
We'll keep the board posted, thank you. So, the tax and business initiative application approval. I move that we. No, okay, I move to recommend we approve the tax abatement for new business or, improvements in existing businesses that who was it? Economic Development recommended to the board. Everybody remember, is it in here? The same.
It's been a while. I made notice.
Yeah. So, we gotta send this to 5-pack and they can look at it, hopefully approve it. And then it'll have to go to a town meeting. Correct, good. And then we can put it in motion. Now, there was a little bit of a snag. So I talked to Mary, the assessor, and we are going to add to our language that it can only be applied for, the improvements can only be, can be started and even completed if it's on the next grant list.
So October 1st.
Yeah. So if somebody started it in November and it goes on to the next grand list, that's okay. The glitch was, we didn't put a time frame on it, so, and we have to.
It says here, the fixed assessment period shall commence the first fiscal year for which the tax list is prepared on the October 1st. Immediately following the insurance issuance of the certificate, so it's not. I'm sure it's clear if we really study the language, but it's how it's done in most of the ordinances.
And I talked to Mary and she said there's no definitive dates in there, so she wanted to add that in. We'll get the proper wording, but I recommend we leave this to 5-pack for discussion and approval. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay. On to some budget review. LMAC.
Hi, Michael Nazaro. We are, coming before the board here, today to, explain the need for increasing our budget, for water quality monitoring.
Well, why is it listed first? Excuse me, Mike, give me a minute. It's listed first.
I just didn't know if you wanted to, you know,
Same here.
Good man, we do,
Well,
So that all your budget documents are in the blue folder.
okay. So Mike, I'm gonna ask you, they asked me about this today, and I thought they put it in the order that we agreed upon, but I do remember. I want some, that will go very quickly, because I do believe LMAC is probably gonna take some time. And I don't want to push and have it and work through the others, okay? So if I could ask you, Lions not even on here, are you doing Lions Club?
That is under your revisional budget discussion.
Okay, I'm sorry, I apologize, Mike, okay? Lions Club, why don't you guys go first, please? You have some issue, you're asking for money?
Yes, sir. Jim Blair, Columbia Landing. And, Columbia Lions, first of all, I want to say, thank you to the town for your support throughout the years, putting on the parade. We can't do it without you, obviously. And, so what we've done is we've increased our budget. The expenditures for the parade itself, last year, the town was gracious enough to give us $8,500. We're looking for an additional $1,500 because our budget comes in at around 13,000 to 14,000 for the parade total. And our budget that exceeds, our contribution exceeds what we have budgeted for our fiscal year, what we anticipate earning in revenue and so forth. So we're asking for those additional funds. The reason why is that we've secured a couple of significant bands that participated last year. We made a commitment to them. They made a commitment to us to stay with us through 26 to have the Susquehanna Centennial Parade be, bigger. Last year's parade I thought was wonderful, and that's the preview of what we're, where we're heading and what to expect. So we need a commitment to keep these performers coming to Columbia and being with us. So that's what we're looking for.
Okay, how much do we give them now, Beth?
But it's not 6,000, because the last year's request came in after the budget was passed, so.
Okay, yeah, so we,
4,000.
Jesus. I'll put it in the budget and we'll see if 5-pack and everybody votes on it. Okay, I mean, I understand, it's the one huge celebration we do throughout the year. I get it, everybody loves to line the streets, I love the parade. Okay, so I understand, we did talk about this, Mark and I, and a couple of people who are involved in the expenses in town, and the expenditures, Bev and Jen. At the summer series, we're gonna put out a couple of barrels with, throw your loose change in there, don't throw your cans in there, although that's growing in money. But, just, we'll have to find some ways to see if people will throw in, but honestly, we'll put it in the budget and we'll see what we can do and, hope everybody says yes to having the parade we should have. I mean, any discussion? This is not a, make a motion, but
we have 10,000 in the budget, but that's
For
next year's parade in the budget.
They need it
So
for this year.
we would
So you need
need
it for
to
this year.
add to the 6,000 that was in last year's budget.
But we gave them 8,500.
We gave
We
maybe.
gave them 2,500 extra to get to
There was
85.
a transfer. last
Right.
year at the end.
All right, so you need us to transfer 4,000, we need to transfer 4,000 over before July 1st.
Yeah.
To do this year.
To do
Yes.
this.
What do we have in contingency?
We're over 40,000.
I make a motion, we authorize payment of $4,000 out of contingency to the Lions Club 4th of July celebration. Discussion.
I think it's great, they do a great job, yeah.
It's one thing we're known for.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
You guys do a great job. We love the parade.
Yeah.
Just guarantee me sunshine.
I know.
And honestly, I'm working on a flyover. It might be a couple of pigeons, but it'll be something. All right.
Facilities.
You're up.
You want to go back to Lake Management?
I think lake management might be.
I have to bring them up on the computer now, with their PowerPoint.
Pete Dunn,
Absolutely.
tell me about your needs and wishes and.
Well, first off, I want to say thank you to the town. This is a great place to work. I am having fun, which I haven't had in a job in a long time. Thank you for that. It's a great town, great people. Being my first budget, I don't know that I did the right stuff necessarily, but I amended the budget to Mark. In a quick summary, it was about, I think, about maybe $16,000 more than the previous budget. For operating expenses, which included originally, line items for truck repairs, continued furnace work. There shouldn't be a lot left, what's that? HVAC issues, we ran into one in the library, I just anticipated more of that. Little slight increased laundry costs, little mechanical call funds such as sewer
Okay, so
line.
wait, see 1 second.
Yes, sir.
If everyone goes past the whole main operating budget, you can get to a printout that looks like this. This is his operating budget. So you're into capital, you've done good job.
Is it after capital?
So now here's, go past the green folder that says
Lime green.
Not
Number-
everybody's- not
Is it
everybody's-
218?
We didn't print out all those.
Oh, you do now.
No.
Then Pete's working off of this document, which is the operating budget, but you have to go to, 530. So if you scroll into the main budget to 530, it's called building inspection and facilities maintenance.
I'm sorry I did not bring better handout, I apologize. Next
No,
time I will.
no, it's fine. Perfect, good.
But yes, to summarize, things like a little increase in concrete for repairs at the senior center that was proposed a year or so ago, didn't happen. Proposing it, stuff like that. I noticed that when I took our flags down, they were done. Looking for seasonal decoration costs, like buying flags and buntings for the buildings. That type of stuff, which adds up quickly.
This is him.
Yes.
All right, so Pete.
Yeah.
In time and.
Too much weeds.
No, time and interest. I'm gonna go through your budget here, and you're gonna tell me why we're spending $11,000 more on professional technical.
So that would be HVAC, electrical repair, or bad wiring. We've had some of that I found in town. We've also had to repair some furnaces, actually every furnace.
Not what you've had to do,
Oh,
what
so
you're
I'm
asking us for next year.
anticipating slightly less than that. I'm just extrapolating based on what I did this year. For next year, slightly less, and with the increase of taking on some of the stuff that Dan had not done, which had been proposed.
You have something on that?
Well,
No, not you, Ben.
this is a list of how you got to that.
Yeah, I'll say what I can get.
It's
So-
HVAC and-
Water testing town buildings, $2,100.
So basically, we looked at his budget and reviewed what was budgeted this year. And there was some costs added in because the repairs So there is some anticipation that we're gonna have repairs next year, but hopefully not as much as
Okay,
this year.
that's fine,
So
good.
all of them, so everything between electrical, plumbing, heating,
Okay, I'm just
water-
gonna go through a couple of them.
Yeah, so that's what this budget's about.
Water testing,
That is probably not increased, that is what you pay every year in the past to have your water certified at Rec Park and the Murphy House for public drinking. That's a big cost for the
And-
town.
that's $2,100.
Yes,
Found that out.
Give it to a dozen people, see if any of them care. HVAC service, $6,000. $6,000, 6,000. So we have a fund for that, right? How much is in the fund?
this is for the maintenance of it and small repairs. The HVAC fund is for major repairs that we.
Okay,
Of all heating cooling systems.
Yeah.
mechanical service calls,
That's right.
$6,000.
That's for all the heating.
That, yeah, anticipates heating, sewer line replacement, maybe a replacement of a well pump. I've done one of those this year. I don't know the age of them. Also, we need to, have your sewers.
Okay, electrician service calls on town buildings, $2,500.
Yep,
Who built this town? Plumbing service calls, $3,500.
so that again is just a placeholder in case we have, something bigger than what I can handle. 2-inch main might not be needed.
All these clocks we've been
Okay, and contingency, 10,000.
That's just anticipate something.
If all this money really
Yes,
bad.
and we actually used it up this year.
So it's increasing by 11,000, went from 22 to 33.
Yes.
Because we spent over 30,000 this year, so we're just trying to make sure there's enough in there for Dan to continue, Dan, Pete. Pete, just to continue and not have to worry about his budget, that he has, what he can do, he can just call people if necessary and do them.
And I would love to not spend any.
Yeah, but when you say worried about his budget,
There, it
a
was.
budget is a budget
Yeah.
until an emergency happens and then we have to find the money. And that's up to the town, not to Pete.
Unfortunately, the budget that was presented this year was not enough to cover. It didn't anticipate, it didn't review as closely as it should have been last year, so this is to basically fix the budget so that we don't have to pretty much go back and say, okay, well, because the FICA's gonna look at like, why didn't your budget enough? We're trying to.
Because, okay, send them to me and I'll tell him, I'm fine with this, okay? I understand he's our expert and we're taking this on and stuff, but why did we not know that the septic system was gonna blow out somewhere? Oh, I don't know, because okay,
May I ask a question of what the budget was the previous year?
yes, 22,500.
Now,
You said we spent 30, so I'm talking about the previous year to that.
I'd have to look at that, but I believe he made transfers into that account too, last year, so it's been a trend.
Okay,
So,
that's kind of where I was.
yes, there's been a trending on this, that we're trying
That's a
to
good point.
make sure there's
We're
money in
about to-
there.
take paper towels out of the bathrooms, because for some reason, we have a problem with them going down the toilets, which is causing major plumbing issues, and
Yeah, last year we put in a turbo flush system.
that wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough to push the amount of paper towels somebody shoved down.
But that was
Because-
for a period of time.
Yes, it could have been a while. and-
This shuts down buildings. It's horrible. When Pete tries to, well, we might have to get a longer snake, but now 50 feet isn't cutting it.
Well, we got a 50-foot snake and the dam plug was 56 feet measured by the professional who came out 6 feet short.
Proposed operating, but wait, there's more. Okay. Anybody, I can pass this around, do they have this?
No, well, they don't have the detail. They have the operating sheet in this format, which is the main category.
So in total, we're looking for 32, or we're looking for 32 plus 28?
No, the total, you're looking for 16,000 extra in this operating.
So we're looking for 68 more.
No, 16,000 extra in this operating.
Extra means on top of
On
what you already
top
spent.
of is normal.
So we're looking
budget
for,
from last year.
okay, which is, now, it'll be 60,000 if we give them that extra.
Yes,
Okay.
the total, correct.
Okay. We should, if we can print those two pages and send them to the board, so. It can go 5-pack anyway, but just so if you have any questions, there's a lot of things, you don't have to do it right now,
I'll send it.
thank you.
Now, capital.
So, yeah, additionally, couple of requests were made of me, and I had observed a couple of things that I wanted to get to, and trying to certainly not be too, aggressive, and just say no if I was, but we have a nice truck at this point in time, but eventually we'll wear out. I had, I think, actually, Bev agreed at the same time, but I think we should start a truck fund. I would say in 3 to 4 years, we should be planning on replacing that truck. It's taken on a lot of salt underneath. It's okay at this moment. But some repairs have been made to it and it's going to wear out. I think we should plan for a replacement of around $70,000 to $80,000. That's what they cost now, unfortunately. But, you know, I put some aside each year. I would recommend 20,000, but put whatever we can aside for it. Also, I would just like to fix the wood roof on the Morehouse treated. It's okay, but it's starting to curl a little bit. Once you get shingles curled, they're done, and that's gonna be an expensive replacement. I would like to just get that treated. I don't think they use oil, it could be silicone, doesn't matter, but when it's warm, I'd like to have it treated and extend that roof. I want to say that I figured it'd be around 12,000 on an estimate for that.
Yeah, it's a senior center, and that's $12,000.
That's an estimate, somebody might do it cheaper, but, in my past life, that's how much it cost to do that. Of course, that was sometimes on the state where I worked, it's more expensive, but usually it was pretty average. So I just put that as a placeholder. Public Works, I'm sorry, I will wait.
Beth, can you at some point let me know how much we have in the HVAC fund?
I think there's about 18,000 right now, but
18?
18.
All right. All right, we go ahead.
No, that's okay, and I might not remember them all, but another one was, Beth had requested that we paint the Public Works garage. It could certainly use a paint job. You know, that would be cheaper to get a lift and a professional, and a maximum would be 20,000 for that. It might be cheaper, but again, I don't want to tell you 10 and then have to ask you for another 5, so. Not remember.
Phone system,
Pardon?
the phone system?
Yes, your phone system. So we've had some issues with the phone system here. From day one, we just had a bunch last week where the town people cannot reach us. We have to hang up. I have to call a gentleman named Cliff who fixes it, at a cost. Anyway, we've done some quick math, which I certainly want to refine before I give it to Mark. But I would recommend that it's gonna cost, about $8,700 to install a new phone system. And about $520, I want to tell you, a month payment, all inclusive. 3 phones are included with that. 3 phone repairs. It's luxury turnkey service. We don't have to do anything anymore. They will fix it for us. Whatever it is, they own it.
And what's it costing us now for our phone system and all the?
You know me, do I have that? It's more than double that, I do believe.
The Pinnaby bill that we're currently paying is about, say, about 130 a month. But the new system does not include, I think, faxes, correct?
So they can replace all but possibly one fax line, they told me today.
Which is about a little over 200 a month.
So is this saving us money or costing us money?
In the long run, it'll, over years, it will be a savings, year over year.
Is every time we call
And I
this,
haven't done that, but I do want to get a break even time for that.
Right, so how, what years is break even? Because then it's savings every year. And also, we just found out our old system doesn't support our panic buttons anymore. This system would include a panic
For free.
system that will call 911.
How
And
old's the system, the one we have?
About 8 years, was put in right when I got here.
Yeah.
Then, it also does a call forward system where we just hit a button and we can call forward our calls to our cell phone, but if we call back, it's the number of the town hall, not our cell phone that's calling back. That's another good feature. And it's true voice over IP. We have a kind of fake system that it does wiring to a PBX system where it becomes voice over IP. So the wiring between that system and the closet and all our phones is where we have problems. That's when things go wacky and stop working. And all of a sudden I can't call Pete, or Jen starts screaming in the office because she picks up the phone, no one's ever there. It's ugly. She'll answer the phone 10 times in a row and then.
I think it's for executive session.
So the company we're looking at, IPG, they're on the state bid list and they're the preferred vendor. All the towns around us have used them. The Ram school system has them. And
The library.
the library, we use them in the library as a test because their whole phone system died and it's working fine.
But when the internet goes down, you have no phone service.
Very true.
That gives us a day off. Be great. No one will call. Not being fun.
Just not that I need to do.
Okay.
He messed it up.
But we have to, we are going to do a wireless system for, fire. And we've tried it in the, library because the hardline wire for the fire was going bad as well. So we are having,
Yeah.
interruption calls.
Okay. So $92,000. Okay,
We just talked about the antennas for the fire alarm system.
plus 20 for the truck. Anything else?
I'm sorry, could you read me what's left? I don't.
That's it.
No, that's it.
Okay, I think that's it.
I think that's it, yes.
Run, Pete, run.
I think it's enough.
That's all. Peter.
You guys are doing great. You know, I'm glad you like working here. You do, everybody talks very highly of you, you're very, you know, friendly and respectful and you get the job done, so we appreciate you too, okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions for me before I go coffee?
We're all set.
I'll see you guys.
Thank you.
It's nice to be, please stay warm.
Now go to that.
Senior center, this could be really good too.
Well, it's mainly just the, capital operating budgets.
Hi Bernadette.
Good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay, good. So I come here tonight to request a proposal to apply for the 5310 grant so we can receive a new vehicle, additional vehicle. The reasoning for that is that right now we tend to be turning people away. We're unable to take them on rides because either our ride program is fully booked. And from there, what we do is we refer them out to WRTD or some of our local surrounding towns to see if they would be able to assist. So in my proposal, I did write in that WRTD has helped serve Columbia residents, 22 Columbia residents that we were unable to transport. The Lebanon Senior Center transported 4 residents during the last fiscal year, totaling 10 rides. Our program, last fiscal year, we served 151 residents, which was a totaling of 1868 of rides. So that is a ride equals 1 destination. So in that total of 1868, that includes multiple destination rides as well as one-way rides, just so you understanding that.
It's how the state wants it.
Take that, that's fine.
right? So we've encountered close to, I believe the exact number was 97 times we had to turn someone away for a ride over the last fiscal year. And many times they either went without transportation or they were referred out to another program. Unfortunately, we've been having many complaints coming in regards to WRTD, which I have been addressing with them. Many times that the client is left waiting for 2 hours and then has to ride on their van for about an hour before they even get back to Columbia. So it's about 3 hours on average that someone after their appointment has to wait until they get home. And I know that doesn't sound like a whole lot, but if you are undergoing dialysis or any type of treatment, bouncing around on a vehicle or having to wait for hours before you get home is extremely difficult. And to the point that many of our seniors, I think what has ended up happening is they're just stopping treatment altogether because they don't want to have to go through the struggles of transportation and waiting so long to be able to get home. So, and to avoid that, we're looking to add on an additional vehicle to help with many of those missed rides. The type of transportation we're looking for is a minivan of a rear entry wheelchair accessibility. So you would be able to have your driver, someone in the front seat, 3 people in the rear seat, and 1 person in a wheelchair. This would help extend the life of our aging 14-passenger van. This vehicle would be fuel efficient. It would be a hybrid. It would allow us to transport, say, 2 people to a medical appointment that, and one of them being in a wheelchair versus having 2 people bouncing around on a 14-passenger, which is between the weight displacement and the cost of fuel, it's just not efficient. So finding one that is hybrid and making it more efficient all around. Let's see, the grant, not only, so the 5310 grant will fund a viable transportation product, viable vehicle projects. They will do it 80% federal share to the town's local match of 20%. The vehicle that I have here for a quote through Mobility Works, which is the company the 5310 utilizes in order to receive new vehicles. Their cost was $71,085 for a 4-wheel drive to Toyota Sienna minivan, rear entry. And so the 20% match that the town would need to come up with is $14,217 approximately. So
Okay,
along with that, I will also be applying for the traditional capital. And so the grant would pay for 80%. And then again, the town would pay the local match of 20% for all the equipment, such as wheelchairs, portable ramps, the My Senior Center transportation program that we use. So for an example, the My Senior Center program is already in my actual budget. It is budgeted every year. It's $1,200. This grant will allow us, instead of having to pay the full $1,200, our match would only be $240. We do need to purchase another wheelchair and also 2 portable ramps. So a total match cost is a total of $330 there, which is really saving us some money by applying for the grant. Also, applying for an operating grant through this would also offset the costs of vehicle maintenance, fuel, the transportation department wages, so like for my dispatcher and my drivers, any of the cell phone stipends, fuel, etc. So we're looking for the okay to apply for this grant so we can hopefully receive a new vehicle. I know last year we applied for this grant and we were denied. And I found out it was my mistake. I wrote in that we were expanding our services, not knowing that what we were really doing was replace a vehicle that is considered out of life per the grant. So the vehicle 14 passenger is usable and we're able to continue to use it. But according to the 5310 grant, it is no longer in use. Sorry.
Okay. All right, anybody have any questions about this? Yes,
Can
sir.
we use our loop chargers for charging this hybrid?
This hybrid it is gas, but it also generates electrical power when you hit the brakes, when you coast, that type of thing. So I had a hybrid, so it's not a plug-in.
Okay.
Right.
So I had a hybrid, it was an SUV, I got 46 miles to the gallon of gas. It was wonderful. Okay, so that's that. Other questions? Okay, next, what, do you have anything else, Bernadette?
No, that was it.
No tables or chairs?
Oh, yes, I thought we were, yes, I'm sorry, thought we didn't make it into the budget. Sorry. So, yes, the next thing would be tables and chairs. Now, as you heard with Pete and the HVAC, the senior center was built in 1997. So everything within it is about 28 years old. So our tables and chairs are 28 years old. And throughout the many years, the 15 years that I've been here with the town, I have plenty of scars from these tables. They're very difficult to open and close, specifically for our senior population. Safety is my number one concern. And having tables and chairs that are far too heavy or not easy to open or operate causes great concern of the safety of our residents utilizing them. So
how many tables will you get and how many chairs and, you know, for what is the amounts for $35,000? It's enough to cover what you need over there?
yes. So the quotes that I had come in were totaling of delivered and installed was $38,854. Yes, that is far more than I ever anticipated. However, what I actually have in the quote here, I had WB Mason bring me by samples of them, and I had the seniors check them out, and they definitely don't like them. So I've been told the ones at the Hebron Senior Center, which are less expensive than what I actually have quoted here, they would most likely be under 35,000, and I'm in the process of getting that quote. That those chairs would be far safer, and they're exactly what the seniors are looking for. The tables would stay the same. They're flip table. They easily fold and are stored properly, stackable, that we're able to easily store them within our storage closet.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Anything else?
No.
Excellent. Anybody questions? No? All right, when you get that final selection of furniture that you're looking for, tables and stuff and the price, just get it into us, okay?
Will do. I should have that to you before the end of the week.
Yeah, thank you, Bernadette.
Okay, thank you.
That's all the time we have for tonight. My wife doesn't even think I'm funny. I mean, it's amazing.
You sat here for nothing.
All right, where are we? Please share. That's. Okay, Mr. Nazo.
Well, I might as well just hand it over to Mary, and as sort of, I introduced it, or do you want me to do all this, or?
No,
Well, I'm happy to do it now.
it's your call.
I'm, wherever you want it.
Okay, let's cut to the chase.
Yeah, there you go.
Jennifer, is there a call?
Yes, he.
We're working on it.
He's attempting.
Multiple participants, advanced sharing option.
Master on it. We
It's called job security.
Exactly.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone, and, first, I want to apologize, and you have a PowerPoint in front of you, apparently it should have been in a little earlier. And as you all know, most of our committees, particularly OMAC, are voluntary, and, we try like everybody else to get things in on time, but I'm on the just-in-time schedule, as is Mike. And, so we are here tonight to present to you for the first time the budget proposal for the fiscal year 2025 to 2026. I want to make note of two things. That's not gonna work, so. Number one, since 1981, we've been monitoring this lake. Actually, some will say since 1975. So in a 40 to 50 year period of time, we have monitored the water quality of Columbia Lake. In that period of time, 40 plus years, excepting for the last 3 years, we've really taken no management action that is necessary to help sustain the quality of the lake. Unfortunately, we're at a point where we now have to not only monitor, but we have to manage. So you see a color code here. This is monitoring. And you'll see color codes on every PowerPoint slide that we've been doing for 40 plus years. Anything in red is management task based on the monitoring, based on the results that we are seeing as the lake ages. And this is the rationale why we're presenting a budget for the total amount of $15,300. Let me get to why that is, because that's a much bigger nut, I think, than most people think Elmec has been spending. The biggest reason is, in our monitoring, the lake is aging, just like any other being, the lake is aging. It's got a cranky back, it's got sore knees. Well, a lake, because too much phosphorus is almost too good, has an effect where too much phosphorus is leading to our demise of our lake, called eutrophication. We want to try to extend eutrophication and not have it happen. And there are ways to do that, but too much phosphorus has the bad outcomes of algae blooms, plant growth, thank God native, and the creation of what is called a dead zone, which potentially could impact aquatic life, such as fish kills. Because of the phosphorus load in the lake, this year and last year, we are starting to see more algae hatches, we call them. We haven't seen significant blooms. And we are starting, to see low oxygen levels in what's called, our TRC, our consultant calls the deepest part of Columbia Lake. And we actually had a condition, a hypoxic, no oxygen condition for a period of time last summer, where aquatic life, if they didn't move or couldn't move, would be destroyed. So we are at a point where, based on eutrophication and our current phosphorus load, the amount of phosphorus in sediment on the town lake bed is really impacting us, so we need management actions. We actually had 3 management actions, which I'll address in the next slides coming up. This is an investment we are actually asking for, because an ounce of prevention obviously is worth it versus the pound of cure. And we want to minimize and never get to an economic or a public health concern due to increased algae blooms. And so you know, we've had algae blooms, and Mike, I joined in 2015 LMAC. Every year we have had cyanobacteria, patches of algae, not around the entire lake. But our phosphorus load is at a point, as it continues to grow, where we could have major blooms if we don't start to take management actions. There's one exception to this budget that LMAC in our first motion doesn't believe should be in the upcoming budget for 25-26. And it is a motion that on contingency, we probably should be looking at a potential health hazard. And that gets to the next slide. Our first motion that we made in February was that LMAC advises the Board of Selectmen to work with Eastern Highlands to investigate a potential health hazard as soon as possible. We don't believe we should be waiting until the new budget coming up in a fiscal year. And here's the reason why. About 15 months ago, our consultant came to us and said, our team has taken up Storm Drain 2, which is located on Rodoni Road. Phosphorus and nitrogen levels that were higher than they have ever seen, particularly nitrogen, on any other lake. And this gentleman has 25 years of experience. There's something wrong with the stormwater drain 2. And that's what we nicknamed the SD2. We actually, every year impact at least 6 drains, and this one happens to be called stormwater drain. If you'll note, we started because of high nitrogen, there was a suspicion that there could be a failed septic system. And the suspicion can be at least looked at in terms of, is there any bacteria coming out? In the last 2 tests, and I'll tell you, the first test in 2024 showed that there wasn't any E. coli. And I'll tell you, the person who took that E. coli test did it incorrectly, and therefore it was me. We rely on experts to take the rest of them. And we have found that E. coli at this drain and then 50 feet out, which means it is spreading out E. coli, has been shown in 3 different testings. This is August, November, and December, to not only show we are exceeding what is safe to swim. Connecticut standard for safe to swim is 235. And I forget what that represents, MNE. Most probable number, means nothing to me. 235 most probable numbers per 100 milliliters. We were at 748, then went to 6,000 over 235, then 11. There's something happening at that storm drain. And E. coli bacteria is a health hazard. It could create GI system tracts, but we are well above the norm to be able to swim. Now, that's not an area where maybe you want to swim, but it is the main inlet to where we fill water for Columbia Lake. So based on these elevations, LMAC in February would like to advise the board to please work with Eastern Highlands to go the next step. And the next step is conduct a microbial source tracking analysis to determine, is this E. coli animal Is there a farm issue, a livestock issue, or is this human? It is the strong suspicion written in the annual report this year by our consultant that this is a septic system. But it needs to be proven before you want to take that next step with property owners who would have to borne then the remediation cost to fix that septic system. So of the budget we are presenting, we feel that $6,800 should be now a contingency. And that $6,800 is mostly, this is so sophisticated, a special lab that has to measure if this is animal E. coli or human E. coli. In addition to obviously the field visit that they have to come out to collect that data or right out of the stormwater. This was the picture they initially took. This doesn't look good coming out of stormwater drain number 2. Now, we haven't seen that recently, but we have seen significant increases in E. coli. So we're recommending in that 50,300 nut that we have and we're discussing tonight, that being this is a potential health hazard, that we immediately move forward with the next step. If you find out it's human, there's another step where you can, there's a couple ways you can do it, and I would advise, obviously, Eastern Highland may advise us. But you can stick a video up there and find out where the connection is, and if that connection is illegal to someone's septic system. Or if that septic system has failed.
So based on these dates, do you think it's a summer rental, because it seems to have dropped by 5,000 per MPN in December from November, but November would have been September, October buildup,
Right.
and then November move out or December shut it down, and you're getting less residual. That's something to just think about. I'm just.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I'm not blaming anyone for picking any property. There are 3 properties there that potentially could be connected to that drain. One of those 3 properties just replaced the septic system about a year ago, and we still are seeing these E. coli's off the roof.
So it's gotta be somebody around.
no, not necessarily.
Not
She
Not
said we don't even know if it's animal
or
or human.
human. We gotta figure that out first. Then the next step is, if it's human, we've got to either video or there's another dye test. Of which we probably have to take a couple, 2, 3 properties to do some dye testing to see if that septic system is workable. There is suspicion, but as our consultant has said, there's something going on there, and they even wrote in the annual report, we do believe you could have a septic system issue on the lake. It's not something we want to see. So that's the first thing. We would suggest that be out of the budget for the fiscal year. As we move forward. Lisa?
Is that the same spot last year where you were thinking that it was a source of phosphorus and the source of an algae bloom? Isn't that the same corner?
There was an algae bloom in the inlet, in the corner that we asked. It turned out to be, even though the E. coli's were high, it turned out to be that algae was green filamentous algae, not cyanobacteria. And that's a good algae, but something's coming out of that drain.
Well,
for
it's still
that
what's
amount.
feeding it.
Yeah, we would kayak over and just see a huge
Right.
patch of it.
You only get that kind of thing, and there's a lot of nutrients in the water.
Phosphorus, too much, can create bad outcomes. Okay.
Okay.
So next slide. LMAC reviewed the TRC proposals for next year, and we have breakdowns in the next slide. Motion 2 that LMAC passed in February was to advise the Board of Selectmen to accept the TRC water quality monitoring and management proposals. There are some clear management actions that we believe have to happen to ensure that the lake water quality is maintained at a high level. In addition, not only would we accept this proposal, but as you see, in addition, we pay, the town pays for the lab cost. And we work with Phoenix Lab and Jennifer, I forget the guy way out in Washington, the name of his, for all the algae that they have to do. when we test for cyanobacteria, it has to go out.
Aquatic something.
There you go. Thank you. The in total, for this, an investment to maintain the quality of our lake is $43,500. Of which 38.5 is TRC, 5,000 are an estimate for the labs. Last year we had an estimate of 4,000, and I don't know where we are with the budget. I didn't have that budget number. And I don't know if we have it from Phoenix or from the aquatic people out in Washington. So here's how we break down the investments, and then I'll give you kind of the apples to apples. For years, we've been doing all the monitoring. That's the blue. This is the monitoring that we do. We monitor the surface water quality and we look at nitrogen, dissolved oxygen, phosphorus, SECI, dish, which tells us how clear is the water. We do that in 6 different spots around the lake. In addition, we have aquatic mapping because too much of a good thing. Phosphorus is definitely creating more native, thank goodness, native plants that are being found around the lake. Some residents on the lake would even call them nuisance plants because most native plants grow in about 5 to 12 feet of water, and that's where most swimming areas are. And I think it even impacted the beach 2 years ago and a year ago. All the analysis and reports and ad hoc. So this total investment for just monitoring is 21,000, and I'll give you what that compares to our proposal from last year. The recommendations by TRC are continue to understand and assess where is this phosphorus coming from. And we have 6 major drains that are around the lake where we measure, I think it's 3 times the amount of phosphorus and nitrogen coming out. So we can at least anticipate where's it coming from. And if we have to do anything to help keep the lake at water quality, then we know where some of the sources we have to go to. Stormwater infrastructure. I kept this in. This is specific to stormwater drain number 2. And this is if we find it's human, then we probably could, if we're one example, we're not allowed on properties, we could take a video and remotely go up that pipe and figure out where are the connections and see if there are any illegal connections to any potential septic.
Or it could be a failed system with a cracked pipe.
It could be a failed system of cracked pipe.
Yeah.
I kept it in because this $4,600 would be worth it just to figure out if these are the highest numbers of phosphorus and nitrogen coming out of one drain, and it's right at our inlet that's mixing with all the water coming in from our inlet. Now, the major part of phosphorus that comes into the lake is from the Erdoney Road or Utley Pond inlet. And that also has the highest phosphorus. It could be even high, well, we know it's high based on something they did last year that I'll explain to you. This is really interesting. Columbia Lake is the only lake I'm aware of in Connecticut that doesn't know how many feet around the lake in 100 different spots, the depth of the lake. The estimated depth, when we looked back at all the data, is it's 26 feet deep, but then there's another document that says it's 23 feet deep for the deepest part of the lake. There are 150, give or take, online lakes and ponds in the state of Connecticut that have this measurement around their whole lake. They know the depth of each area in 100 spots. We're the only one that I'm aware of that doesn't have that.
So every lake and pond paid for that, we the only ones who didn't?
No. In 2003, the University of Connecticut, in conjunction with D, did a project, and this was the project.
And they just drove by us?
I'm not sure
Drove
what
right
happened.
by us to go to.
It says here there's a pond out here, so I keep.
But remember, there are some people who don't want to work with D.
Yeah, I understand.
And if that was the case, I can't speak to that. I don't know. This is crucial to understand if we ever had to treat for the phosphorus that's in the lake. We need to understand the depth of the lake, number one. And number two, it's also to help understand uses recreationally on the lake. In certain areas, 15 feet or under, with horsepower issues, you're stirring up the sediment and you're creating a bigger monster if you're not careful. So this would help us understand our lake much more. Sediment sampling for alum. For the first time, and this even surprised me, our TRC consultant said to me, and then wrote in the annual report, if it were my lake, I would start treating the lake for the amount of phosphorus that's in the lake. And that treatment is aluminum sulfate, because phosphorus binds to it and sinks and is just there. The phosphorus doesn't start mixing and therefore it won't create cyanobacteria. It'll take 2 or 3 years before, if we ever were to consider treating this lake, 2 to 3 years to get sediment samples to say where it is the majority of the phosphorus, thus we need this. Therefore, where should we be treated? The recommendation, when I further asked our consultant, isn't to do a full swing of putting alum in the lake. His recommendation is, we have a deep hole, and that's what they call it, the deepest part of the lake. And in that deep hole, we have already seen hypoxia, lack of oxygen, and that's because there's so much phosphorus on that lake bed in the deep, deep depth. Now that phosphorus will start when the oxygen starts to deplete and the phosphorus depletes it, will start floating up, and that's what creates major algae blooms. So we already know what has saved us is what's called thermocline, that the lake keeps churning up. And what's on the bottom comes on the top, and what's on the top goes on the bottom. And that is churned enough that we haven't had major algae blooms.
Okay, so I have to ask you, because you just 3 minutes ago, you talked to me about the concern for horsepower picking up the bottom and churning that
Correct.
stuff up, and now you tell me that the lake naturally churns that stuff up. It's hard
It's
for me
both.
to know.
It's both. It's not and or, it's both.
So we want the churning or we don't want the churning?
We
We
don't
only want
want
the churning and how the lake does it?
You don't, thermocline is just, that's what the lake, any lake does, okay? But churning up something 15 feet or less around, and I'll tell you, I had a kid who played basketball for me and worked at Astamama, who said to me, Coach, I've been on this lake my whole life, okay, 18 years. I've never seen such particles around this lake. The entire lake had tiny little algae particles. That's part of thermocline. And that's part of, are we churning up the lake also? It's both. I wish our consultant was here.
It's. The boats churn it,
Get it?
the thermocline turns it.
So it's at a slower
It's a
rate.
bigger, slower movement of water, and it doesn't happen like all the time, whereas the churning is more localized to the boat traffic.
Now, one of the things we've discussed forever at LMAC is creating some sort of educational process. We're volunteers. We do a lot and we try to do as much as we can, but we're not experts in creating and designing brochures and education. We can get ripples out through the CLA. So at some point, it doesn't have to be TRC, we need to get more educational information out to people as to what they can do in the watershed, not just around the lake, in the whole watershed area to minimize phosphorus coming into the lake. And one other thing, to ensure that there's never any aquatic invasive species that comes into the lake. So they're recommending an educational brochure. We're gonna need someone to help design and draft. educational materials. And whether it be a social media and or brochures to be handed out or to be sent to the entire watershed area.
Can we get an intern or somebody who's studying
There you go.
marketing or something up at UConn? I mean, do they have that program at UConn or Eastern or something, that somebody can do this as a project?
Yeah,
There is that opportunity, but it's the blending of the technical understanding of it with how to present it graphically in an appealing way. So I guess that's the value of that.
Somebody has to provide the rationale that. How do I say this? That people just normally would read it and go, oh, this makes sense. And not have to have the whole spiel on phosphorus and eutrophication and the whole thing. That to me would be where we could use TRC. And then a marketing person can put it all together. Like
We
Mike
don't
says,
have something already put together on that kind of thing? Isn't that like, wouldn't that be a standard
Every
thing?
lake,
Well, it's unique. Our lake is somewhat unique. I mean, of course, all lakes have issues,
Phosphorus, you know, using non-phosphate detergents, I mean, I
you probably
know
could find
that
something online
you
to
probably can.
copycat.
There it is. I would bet you can, because
Yeah,
it's basic.
and, you know, I think we're open to, you know, even in our discussion for this, we said, let's leave it in, because we know we need something, but it doesn't necessarily have to be TRC doing it. Okay, so there's the investment, plus the lab cost. Now, let me give you apples to apples. Last year, our budget was in the range of 24.9. I'm not sure how much we've spent. But this was all the monitoring that we've done over 40 years. This year, we're going from 24.9 to 26,000. It's a 4% increase. The monitoring has to happen. The management actions can be debated. Some are recommended, some could be put off a year.
well, we didn't take all of the recommendations.
Yeah, we ended up putting
Okay, we put them all in there.
and then,
Okay,
like, we'll back out educational.
yeah.
So there's your kind of apples to apples comparison. The management actions, we couldn't do an apples to apples. Next slide. And here's why. As things come up from monitoring and we understand what's happening, then we have to start managing. We've always managed outside of the lake until 2 years ago. Nutrient allocation being an example. Now, we had to do bacterial assessment, and that's what we're doing with the E. coli testing at SD2, storm drain 2. We looked at and went and looked, where's the most phosphorus coming from? And we went back up from the Utley Pond Inlet, which is the biggest inlet into the lake. And we took 3 spots, coming down Lake Road. If you know the corner of Redonian Lake, there's a hill that goes up. If you come down that hill on a really bad rainstorm, we collect and say how much phosphorus is in that. Across the street, Joshua's Trail and 81 Lake Road, there's a barn there. We measured there, how much is coming there. And then right on Redoni Road, as it goes into the inlet. And the outcome of this was the highest amount of phosphorus, all were high in phosphorus. The highest amount of phosphorus coming into this lake, at least 50% of the phosphorus is from those areas. Utley Pond and those areas. So we know if we have to treat the input and we wanted to stop it, which we have no management actions we're recommending because it's probably multiple lots of money. That the vast majority is coming from the Utley Pond area, but down Lake Road, there are farms right there. Farms use phosphorus. Coming out of Joshua's, which was a little surprising, and then on Redoni Road itself. Removing phosphorus from Columbia Lake, there was an excellent suggestion at one of our LMAC meetings, should we use a siphon pipe and siphon some of this phosphorus off the bottom of the lake? I just got the analysis this morning, and we have right now, the number won't mean much to you, but at 480 I forget, I'm just gonna say 480. If our lake got a phosphorus load of 480, we'd be in total algae bloom and shutting the lake down. We are now approaching 240, about half of that, and we're seeing algae patches. What this demonstrated was if we try to remove some of that phosphorus, that 240, give or take, it would remove 1%. Only 2. It was a great idea. They went through a thorough analysis. I'm happy to share it with everyone, with equations and aquatic experts. And the hypothesis didn't come out to be, is it worth us to say $35,000, put a pipe in, siphon out from the pipe, and we're gonna get 1% of that 240.
So I have to ask, with all you're telling me, we're gonna find out how deep the lake is, we're gonna find out where it's coming from, we're gonna find out how much is settled on the bottom. And we're gonna live with it.
You live with it, and in 2 or 3 years, we could be at algae bloom,
But I'm asking you,
or do we want an alum treatment? If you're asking for.
I'm asking, are we gonna have to live with it, or is this, do they believe this alum treatment is going to be, it's gonna clump it together and it's gonna sink
And it's
down
still there.
until it builds up and it's a mountain.
It's not going anywhere. It's
You'll
still
be
there.
have to work on
It
it.
is still there, and here's the consultant's response. If it were my lake, initially where you are right now, to not get to a point where you're closing your lake, I would do a treatment in the deep hole where the most is. They know that. And that treatment would buy you maybe 3, 4, 5 years. Because phosphorus is still coming in. And if we don't do anything about the phosphorus coming in. The other solution is wait. When you get to that load where you are having significant algae blooms, you're gonna do the whole lake and it's gonna cost $400,000+.
So we're feeding the lake through Utley Pond.
We're feeding the lake, no, not from the watershed area around there, not just Utley Pond.
But majority Utley Pond, right?
It's hard to say where all that phosphorus is coming from.
Well, we know 50% of it's coming from.
Well, we know
From that
50% of the phosphorus, yeah.
Mr. Lewis,
So, being with the fire department and seeing the storms that we've had, with the record rainfall. I've never seen Route 87 at, we'll call it Lessinger Lane.
Yeah.
Go underwater by over 4 feet. I have pictures of my aunt's house literally getting inundated with a river. When we're talking about phosphorus, is what people put on their lawns or in the roads and everywhere. So when we talk about Columbia Lake, lived in the town 51 years of my life, my father grew up on Columbia Lake on Woodland Terrace. I know all about Columbia Lake. The amount of runoff that hinders that lake now more than ever due to the record rainfall we get in storms. So we don't just get a little downpour. We're getting inches of rain. So it's grabbing from all the hills, everyone's yards, and it's congregating. And where does it head? Heads to Columbia Lake.
It's a bowl.
So that phosphorus coming in, I know Ordonez Road is bad, but I would only imagine what you're getting off 87. Off all the homes used to be cottages over on Woodland Terrace are now beautiful $1 million homes. And what they're treating their lawns, those are the most beautiful lawns in the town. I'm just stating. So
Yeah.
we talk about phosphorus coming in, it's coming in from more places than it ever has before because we've cut down the trees and we've planted these beautiful yards and put in this. So I agree with what you're saying, but to cut down the phosphorus, I don't know how you're gonna do it.
The number one of most water bodies input of phosphorus is stormwater drains. Number 2 is groundwater. And what you're talking about is the water of the residents around the lake
Right.
that goes in. And I don't disagree.
Right.
It's both.
Right.
And there are others. It's rain, has
Correct.
phosphorus, et cetera.
Right.
And I agree, 2 years ago, those rainstorms probably did us in for a while, but we didn't have that much rain this year.
Right, that's true, good point, we didn't.
You know, now you look at it and you say, is that a 50-year storm?
Right.
So I used to be in a nursery profession. And one of the things I did was ponds. I had a nursery and I sold pond stuff. And I'm gonna tell you something, if you had a little backyard pond and you wanted to keep it clear, you put plants in it. And has anybody suggested putting a plant filter at the end of Erdoney Road sewer drain? Where you could fill in there with a bunch of cattails and different sedges and kind of make a filter there to suck up the phosphorus before it hits the lake. Because that's what it does. That's what nature does naturally. It puts plants all around the edges of your pond, and you don't have to work at keeping it clear. It keeps itself clear because all the phosphorus gets sucked up by the plants.
They're
But when you have walls, seawalls all the way around the lake and nobody has plants, you know, they have their lawn and a little beach and then the lake. There's no plants sucking up that nutrient and that's your big miss.
They're green
That's-
solutions. I'm with you. And one example is a swale, which is a nature made.
And that's not chemicals, that's getting rid of the phosphorus before it hits the lake.
And that's a potential we can take to our consultant. There is also, you don't want to hear this, but there is also a way to set up and have that water
Absolutely.
filter through not a native, but a alum type of a log called a phos log, where then you're cleaning it.
Well, they even do it with mats of barley mats. You can use barley mats to do the same thing. So there's a lot of ways of getting rid of nutrients
Yeah.
in your. It's not just throwing out and
I don't
keeping the
disagree.
phosphorus at the bottom of the lake doesn't make any sense to me. It's still there.
Just, yes,
Just gonna ask, what are the known side effects for the alum? Like the aquatic life or anything?
If done correctly and when done correctly, and of course, this has now had 25+ years experience, and our consultant can come in if we ever got there. There are no quote unquote side effects. The binding happens and the phosphorus is in essence enabled or unable.
Disabled.
Disabled, thank you.
Made it.
What aeration? Does the aeration affect phosphorus?
We looked at aeration in the 1990s, and Mike, I don't know if you were around then. And the Board of Selectmen then turned it down. It was a $35,000 proposition. Today, it would probably be 5 times that, if not more.
I remember some discussion about aeration and the boats, you know, at the surface provide some aeration, the boat activity.
Usually they're sucking from underneath. and
No,
stuff.
it's in our CLA history. I read it in there, and at that time, it was turned down. And
I
again,
just don't see an alum treatment as a long-term treatment. I mean, then you're just asking to do it every
Well,
4
I
months.
think there's two sides. There's dealing with the excess that's here now. And then also, how do we deal with the input? There's two pieces to it.
and the first solution, the 70,000 solution, is only a 3 to 5 year. If you did the whole lake solution, it's a 2 decades. So, you know, but then you're looking at 5 times the cost. Because you're not doing 30 acres. Our deep hole is estimated to be 30 acres.
So
We're up
I
200.
have an odd question. Do you remember the Phragmites that was down at the end
Yeah,
of the lake and we
yeah.
got rid of it all?
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
But it used to use up a lot of nutrients. Just saying.
okay, so we plant Phragmites for a summer.
I just said, we could be planting cattails, you can be planting something else in that area. It makes,
We have.
I would
plenty-
use nature to take care of the problem.
Yeah,
Is how
So I'm sorry, I have to get back to this.
next slide.
The 24-25 management tasks, okay, we've done them, we're putting them aside, we're now moving on to 25-26 management tasks.
Correct.
So it's gonna be 14-7 up
Now, we've already spent this
to
14.
17-5.
We've already spent
Yeah, I
this.
understand. So what happens, so this 14-7 that we spent, we have enough information that says we now need to get more specific.
To get more, to
more
understand
specific.
what.
And
are the
then
things
next
you wanna
year we'll
do.
be here saying, we got more specific, so we need to hit the big hole with alum or something, big potential.
Yep,
Or look
And
at
we need
the
to put
solution.
cattails
Yeah,
in the pond or the, a makeshift pond or in an area, if that will chew up nutrients. We have to send out educational brochures and tell people, please do not use lawn fertilizers, that's phosphorus.
you may wanna suggest as a board of selectmen that, and it's, again, because of stormwater and groundwater, it's not just lake residents, but it's the whole watershed area. How many residents are in the watershed? 600?
600, some, 650.
Yeah.
And do you want an ordinance that says, you know, you can't fertilize your lawns?
Okay, and you know what that ordinance will do for me? Nothing. Like,
You can't.
like you can't put a dock on the lake without a permit. Or you can't put an oversized boat on the lake, cause you know what? I have no recourse. That's my problem. All this stuff, I understand what you, we're not working fast enough. I really, if. I can't tell you what I dream about at night on that lake with a
Mark has a-
chainsaw and a dozer. I gotta tell you. I'm sorry, it's just, I need to be able to say, you did wrong, you can't do, you're not going to, or there will be repercussions. I have none. None.
There's a draft of the town ordinance, which was the priority last week, that is in Mark's hands, that we're working with Rich
Mhm.
Roberts on, that may provide you with a lot of those solutions.
Okay,
And it's called, you can only launch a motorboat on the town, at the town line.
that's the smallest portion of my problems.
How about
over
no
on the lake.
motorboats?
Hmm?
How about no motorboats?
Well, I will tell you, you know, tongue in cheek, our consultant said to me, there are two things that you can do if you want to minimize phosphorus. And number one is take all motorboats off your lake. And number two is you might want to consider alum. So,
That would be, sounds like.
Do you in contact with anyone at Lake Hayward, because that would be maybe a link to maybe see what their effects are, because they don't have motorized.
Well, that's, neither
Yeah.
does, Amstead, or
Okay.
neither does Bolton Lower and
Andover Lake, doesn't it?
Andover.
Chris, you bring up a good point. There are approximately, I can give you the data because I did the research. 24 lakes our size, you know, in the 200 to 280 range. Of those 24 lakes, 2 allow motorboats with the horsepower that we have. The remaining allow 10 to 12 horsepower. That's it. The larger lakes that are having the huge algae issues, Coventry, Bashan, they have the higher horsepower. The data's there. The data's there to say. Our lake consultant, when I asked him, he said, you know, what can we do with horsepower? He again said no motorboats, or he said it's up to the locals. Based on the data. Up to local authorities based on the data. So.
So the investment you're looking for from 39.6 last year is 43.5.
43.5 plus 6,800 for the,
That's,
But you want that, this.
you want that?
we want that hopefully as soon as possible. We still have money in the budget for 2 more E. coli tests,
Septic.
but we're pretty sure, I think we know what's going on there. We have to prove it.
So if you got it on Redoni Road, people who may be swimming around there would be affected by the E. coli, or that may be hard to tell.
Potentially, but that's not really a swimming area. Where those rental properties are, but potentially, you know, they used to say the solution to pollution is dilution. Well, the solution to E. coli is not dilution, because if it's keep
Right.
pouring on, we're gonna have issues.
That's good, that's.
So, the only other thing I will tell you, and this is something that I think Steve just referred to, is the other big issue is aquatic invasive species. And we need to, I think, and I think LMAC agrees, have a more robust boat inspection policy, which is why we have a new draft going in. to our legal authorities to look for a new town ordinance that we would ask you to bless. And that's a very robust inspection policy for aquatic invasive species, in addition to a few other things. So yes, that's the nut. Apples to apples monitoring, it's 4% increase. There's no apples to apples in management. These are the types of things. I know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, the E-coli thing does bother me. I'd like to know where it's coming from. So I would like to, I need to make a motion to push that to 5 packs, see if we can get $6,800 for that.
Yes, but I am working with the health district to make sure that's their solution they wanna do. So
Okay, get back to us next.
if you wanna get the authorization for the 6,800, I'll at the same time in parallel be working with the health district, see if they agree.
So what's my motion on that?
I started working with them on Friday.
Okay, what is my motion on? Is
You
the
want
proper
to table
word?
it until
Approve
next meeting?
6,800 on the condition that Eastern Highland District concurs with
We
the.
concur that is a proper solution.
I think the best time to get it when the water is below that pipe, so they can get that camera up there now.
Now's the time to do it.
So now's the time to do it. I don't wanna wait 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. I'll be looking at a new ordinance in a year. Okay, I mean, it's, I need to move these things. The time that the lake is gonna open is shortly and quickly coming at us, and then we're gonna be behind the 8 ball again.
Right.
I don't
So-
started even.
What?
I'm just ignoring you.
I move to approve $6,800 from contingency to allow for. What is it? The monitoring or the,
A
this,
potential health hazard to identify
The source.
if we have a potential health hazard.
And,
okay,
we have a health hazard, not
Well-
identify if we have one.
this, to identify the source of the health hazard. Yes, so, any discussion on that?
On the conditional, right? On Eastern Highlands. Currents.
concurring that that is
Yeah.
a solution they will.
Sure, but they better have something better. Right? So, yeah, with, how about with, in consultation with Eastern Highlands Health District? Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye, opposed? Thank you. So you can wordsmith that for me?
Yeah.
I know I rambled, but.
It's on the recording.
Because I know that other lakes shut down. You know,
Correct.
Coventry, the joke was that everybody had a good septic system. A half-filled 55-gallon drum and took care of everything, you know, and every year they shut down the lake for a couple of weeks in the summertime, which gets E. coli rampant.
Right.
You know, it's too bad. I mean, Pokey as well, that was. What's that? Lake Pokey. Yeah, Lake Pokey Fog in Marlborough. So. Just in my editorial here, okay? You have 3 people who sit on lake management and Columbia Lake Association type of organizations. I have some real issues coming up with the opening of the lake. Okay, I've asked the board to all think about what we need to do, what actions we need to take, what entitlements we are going to take back to keep the lake as healthy as we can as a board. I need to be able to take action. And right now, I'm laughed at. I'm laughed at. They throw words out like grandfather and altered. And, oh, sorry, didn't know. I'll get a permit next time. I can't have it. Otherwise, why do we have rules?
We're lockstep with you on that.
Okay, I need the ordinances or the, you know, the work up on them so we can get them approved and put before and get them passed, so we can do something.
The timeline that we set for the ordinance is to put it in front of you in April.
Great. I needed it last year.
I know,
I needed it last year.
had a little
So-
hiccup there, didn't we?
Yeah, I know, okay? Because hell bent on me going to the town saying, I need $500,000 to put alum in the lake to, and they're gonna go, oh. We don't really use the lake that much. Now, Mike, I know there's economic downfall should the lake fail. I get it. I get it. People on the lake, you pay a pretty penny for that property on the lake, you pay a lot of taxes. We also use the lake. We wanna save the lake. But this year, I mean, I'm looking at this, you're only going up a couple $1,000s in your budget, right?
Mhm.
But you heard it tonight, everybody else is going up a couple thousand,
Yeah.
or 10,000, or hundreds of thousands. It's not gonna be easy. So. $500,000 to drop alum in the whole lake. Good luck on that one.
Well, I must say, we heard some interesting other ideas and I have a lot of notes and we'll certainly, before we would ever do that, I think obviously we would need to look at all the options.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, Lisa, she brings a wealth of knowledge in botany, I guess, you know? I tell her I have a problem, she says, well, let me mix you up some of this, and she's like a healer on one side, but it's all through plants and stuff, and it's helped. I
Can you do
mean,
that?
we make fun, but it's not, it's
I'm not making
wonderful.
fun,
No, I understand, I make fun,
Oh.
but it's
Yeah,
really,
you do.
she gives me the stuff, my wife says, what are you taking? Lisa gave it to me, it's okay, that's good, you know, and it helps. But every time we have something that deals with chemicals or a solution of chemicals or, you know, plant eating carp or, you know, putting a huge siphon hose at the bottom of the lake. She always has something to go, well, you know, we could try this, maybe cattails that suck up the nutrients or
See, I
something.
like the idea of nature
Use it.
taking care of it.
Sure, so,
Yeah, you know,
Just needs to be a different way of thinking.
it makes sense.
But maybe I need to write an article for the next Columbia Views
there
on,
you go,
on fertilizers.
absolutely.
That would be outstanding.
And it helps to, I mean, plant, that's nature, nature takes care of nature.
Well, to
And
your,
we're the
it is
ignorant.
until you screw with
to,
it.
well, to your point, you know, when I first bought my property in 2000, I put, you know, eco-friendly fertilizer on it, and then finally, after 2 years or 3 years, whatever it was, I just said, you know what, let's just try it without. And my lawn barked at me for 2 years,
Takes 3 years.
but I was gonna say,
Takes 3
on the third year,
It's green.
it's green, and
And
I
it stays
don't-
green even during a drought.
yeah,
Huh.
and.
Shame on you for not asking her. 22 years ago.
Yeah, exactly, but either way, I'm just saying, I haven't done anything,
It
Great.
looks okay.
and it looks fine, you know, it is what it is. and-
It's funny, cause we stopped too, and this will be year 3, I think.
Yeah,
It's the third year's magic.
it,
Third year, because there's no biology. So fertilizer kills the biology in your soil. Your plants don't.
kimchi for my.
Exactly, it's probiotic. So you, every time you put fertilizer, you kill everything, you disrupt everything. When you stop, it takes that much time for the biology to build back up, and it's the biology eating stuff that poops that feeds your grass.
Mhm.
And so it just goes.
Yeah.
No one's out in the woods.
Thought it was the neighbor's dog.
Well, then, too.
Yes.
Yeah, Martha Carter, Downey Road, I wanna emphasize Mary's last slide and the importance of the boat inspections, you know, we know we have hydrilla down the street, it's almost inevitable that somebody's gonna bring it into the lake. And that would be a devastating event for us, and I mean, the dollars we're talking here are just chump change compared to what it would cost to try to eradicate an invasive plant like that, so, and it's been seen down below,
Amsterdam Pond.
Andover.
not right in Hebron, I thought, right?
Yeah.
Right in the pond below
The pond below
Robinson's.
Robinson's farm.
By Robinson.
Oh, yeah, that's not
Are you
Amsterdam
kidding?
Pond.
That
That's-
was the name of it.
Oh my God, you can walk on that water.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's terrible.
The whole Connecticut River is starting to fill.
I went down and took pictures.
Yeah,
and I
oh,
drew
that's,
it.
yeah,
It's
that's been.
right at the launch,
regular.
which is where it usually starts.
Yeah.
It's scaring the heck.
That, I mean, that's just a terrifying thought to have an invasive like that.
And then you'll be able to drain the lake and rake it all out and apply chemicals for 3 years. We'd have to do something very drastic.
Yeah.
So
And very
we don't
expensive.
wanna get there, and that's another thing, again. I asked the board about different options of inspections and gate and permissions, and we need to make sure that people are cleaning and the boats are clean and the trailers are clean, and, you know,
Absolutely.
it's like it's our number one.
So we need to
priority.
police it more, whatever, I mean, you're creating some guideline, you need to police it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And make
Okay.
sure it does get policed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Town administrator report. It's just, I put in some articles. for people.
Yeah.
You want town administrator report?
Yeah,
You have something?
in town administrator report, there's 3 articles for your review. Legislative priorities that CCM is working on, and, some panel experts telling about some of the challenges Connecticut has. And then also the speed cameras, which, like Steve and I did talk to the first selectman of Washington, Connecticut. He walked us through how to get speed cameras analyzed and looked at in your road systems. And, we'll at least start the investigation. That's all I have to say.
Okay, budget, no transfers, refunds. Yep, I'm working on it, I just wanna make sure that it's the same as written in there. I move to approve refunds presenting $3,368.92.
So we overtax the person?
We didn't overtax them, they paid it twice.
Oh,
We never overtax our citizens.
no, of course not.
No, they just paid 3 times instead of twice.
So,
There's 3 payments.
any discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
I have one other thing, Stephen, like, the airport, I forgot to mention your concert series, that, we have 2 groups.
We usually do 3, but our concert series.
This is different. This is a fundraiser for fires
Yeah,
out west, and we have Trumbull Highway and,
okay, this is a preliminary fundraiser, all right, well, let me just set the tone, because it didn't come to the board. It came to me when I was thinking about fires that were going on, and my daughter has family down in Asheville, North Carolina, who's still reeling from that flood situation. And I said, you know what, if every small town did a fundraiser, every small town, which would lead to a city, if every one of them did a fundraiser, we would be able to rebuild everything. Every town has a garage band that, you know, could bring people out to have a good evening, maybe listen to some music and throw a few dollars into a bucket. So, I brought this up on a radio station about 6 weeks ago, and we're gonna do it if the board says okay. I believe March 29th. March 29th, it's a Saturday from 5:30 to 9. We have 2 bands that are willing to play at no cost to the town. We'd like to do it here at Yeoman's because we have inside and outside, should have bad weather. We would not charge admission, we'd have a couple of buckets out there, let people know that there will be contributions or donations, whatever they wish. I talked to Jake about, beer and wine sales and, food trucks he has agreed that he would put all the things in motion that the same we do at our concert series, should we decide from the board that we would like to go through with this. So I will tell you. We need an approval from us, but the good news is, we do have two bands, one our own Trumbull Highway of 7 musicians from the town of Columbia and their kinfolk from the hills. And also Night Shift, who plays for us, and they've agreed to play for nothing, should we go through with it. I think that, I think it could be a good thing. We could raise a couple of dollars and find out who to send it to, but we're fortunate. I mean, Thursday, we were gonna have 20 to 30 inches. It's now blown south of us. You know, so it's a shift of the wind that we could be in some kind of dire straits in a snowstorm, like they were in the floods, and the fires certainly is much more than that, but I'd like the permission of the board to be able to put this together and go on with it. So, I move to approve March 29th fundraiser, 5:30 to 9 Yeoman's Hall. For the people of North Carolina and California. Discussion.
Great idea.
Yeah. Can't guarantee there'll be no ice, no ice in.
It's almost April, silly woman.
It's gonna continue.
So the alcohol permits, so we have to pre-buy the alcohol like we've done.
Yes. Yeah, it worked fine last year. We've not had any problems or anything. There's enough adults in the room that we don't anticipate, okay? So. All those in favor?
I think it's a good idea.
Opposed? Thank you. So let's finalize it, all right? Bills. Okay, I move to approve payment of bills as presented totaling $138,211.38, consisting of 24/35 emergency and 4/25 regular credit card and paychecks. Hey, did this come out of, open space? Yes. What's left in that, 20 grand? No. Okay, that's all right. We're still, if anybody's wanting to see a lot of salt here, we have had some storms but we're still okay with our salt budget. And we're still okay with our plowing budget. Yes. Any discussion on the bills? No. All those in favor of payment? Aye. Okay. Anybody on, audience or citizen out there want to say anything? Nope, good. All right, thank you. Board member comments?
So we're gonna meet again next week for more budget discussions or?
I might want to plug everything in and look at it all the numbers.
You have to vote on the week after.
Yeah, so it's gonna be, if you've seen anything, you have a question of anything, you see anything that we could move to another year that doesn't look like it's urgent, or you just really have a hard time understanding why we're spending the money, please bring it to next week's board. And we'll have a discussion on it, we'll take a look at it. I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I guess comes to mind to start is, it seems like there's just a lot of, maintenance and capital and whatnot, and I guess what I would recommend is in the aggregate, what do you think, Mark and Steve, your team, I mean, are the top priorities, right, between the vehicles and whatnot, because I think there's a lot of being asked, yeah, on top of increases for insurance and all that, so I think if there's any push to make cuts, whether it's by us or in a fight pack, having that priority list ahead of time might improve.
I'll have that for next Tuesday.
Yeah, but Mark and I sat down today and I went through a lot of places line by line by line, and Mark and Jen were calling over the bed and, answer my questions. What is this $5,000? Or why are we spending, why is this going up by 20%? And, one thing, it's really, it's gonna be a difficult budget this year. I mean, one thing that you talked about, the vehicle. I think we could probably not put away $20,000 for the maintenance department, a new vehicle, when we need a $70,000 truck in 5 years. I think we can pay $70,000. It's not like a $1.3 million fire truck where that is a huge expense to the town.
Right.
70,000 for the expense, but it's not, it wouldn't crush us on a one-time expenditure once every 10 years or so. So that 20,000, I would think, forget that, we're not doing that.
I mean, or even like the tables, I mean, I understand they're important, but is that something we need right away now, or is it something we can plan for? It's 35,000 better off towards capital for something else.
Right,
Yeah.
go over there and work one of them tables.
The same ones they go.
I did last week.
Oh, you do pinch your fingers. Sure.
They were the school tables.
Good at it.
They got rid of them, we took them.
Yeah,
Well,
but I understand what you're saying, absolutely, so.
They're functional. They're
Well,
definitely
I think
functional.
they just should make arrangements, if they're gonna need the tables, have facilities go there and put the tables out versus a senior trying to open and close them.
yeah, that should be rule one right away.
I understand. Now that we do have Nevin who's working with Pete in the facilities. I did ask him the other day, is that something, if you had a 3-day notice, you could put in your planner to get over there to set up the room? Yes, we could. So maybe we're looking at that. Okay, but that is a good idea. And there's a lot of things here. You go through every one of these departments and you think to
They all
yourself,
want money.
really?
Increases.
Scratch that, and like on Pete's, he had $92,000 for this year. And then the next 5 year was 2020. Now, I understand things will come up and there'll be changes and stuff like that, but a big jump like that, can we move something so it's maybe 60 and then next year it's 40 and then it's 2020?
Yeah, I was wondering about
Take
the
a look
skid
at it.
steer that they were talking about, I don't know.
I know, well, yeah,
That
that's
was-
another good item, we'll
Yeah.
take a look at that.
I was wondering if you get something like that, on auction or something.
Right.
That's
Used.
what George used to do, he went on the.
I mean, you go down to, it used to be Petrosky, whatever, it is,
Yeah.
down Franklin. see
Yep.
if they can-
You can look online, you can find this equipment.
Like I said, you mentioned last week about renting,
Yeah, or renting, yeah. There's gotta be a
see
place.
how often you use it and then
Right.
if it's regular
It
use.
didn't sound like they needed it for a lot. I mean, some specific things, yes.
It's funny, you work with the people. And you know who is I need, I want, I wish. So when the desires come in or the reports come in, you go, okay, is this like, you're gonna use this a lot, or it'd be nice to have?
I could see a skid steer being very helpful at the landfill. That's where I see it being
Yeah.
used, like turning over mulch piles and.
And yet they're talking about using it for catch basins.
Well, I just, that'd be the Saturday use. But I could see
Operations
them.
with lawns, we don't.
I, watching a skid steer, but I wonder, can it kind of replace one of the big movers that they used to.
Tobacco,
The backhoe, just, or take some
Didn't
of
we
it.
just order a smaller?
so the
Yeah,
back.
we bought a smaller
Yeah,
one 2 years ago, last year, yeah, that's what I thought about. Yeah, the mini, that's what I thought they would be using to do, that are swales on the side of the road for drainage. Until I found out it wasn't our property. But I understand, so thank you for your comment, we'll look at everything, believe me.
And how
And
much, what the
and-
increase is, because I'm not
Yeah,
getting a
that's what
sense
she'll
of
have, we'll work
what
on
the
that
increase is.
for next Tuesday.
Yeah.
I'll set it up for you. We'll start plugging everything. So we have 3,000 in
We
open
have
space.
financing, gotta get a number. We have to get a number for financing too, so.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
okay, no other board member comments? Executive session, we need it or what? You wanna talk about cost of living, if we're gonna give anything?
Yeah,
You wanna do that tonight or next week or week after?
we can talk about it now, we might as well.
Or you could think about it and we'll talk about it next week.
That would be great.
I'm losing people over on this. It's not- Thank you. All right.
You gotta get a cost of living.
Yeah,
You do.
is it 1% or 1.25? So,
People need an increase.
so with that news, nobody has anything else, I need to adjourn, all those in favor? All right. Opposed? And what time is it, Steve?
9,
11, yeah, 9:11, yeah.
10.